Alright everybody, stocks by the numbers, welcome back. QuantumScape Corporation, ticker symbol QS, listed here on the New York Stock Exchange. Stock sitting right around the $7 level, and I was waiting throughout the day to see exactly what the stock was going to do, and it looks like it's kind of just flat, kind of maintaining around the $7 level. So the stock's still up a little over 1.5 points here, holding about that 29-30% gain throughout the whole day. On the news that they now inked a license agreement with Volkswagen's power company for them to produce QuantumScape's battery cells for their vehicles. And I appreciate the fact that, of course, everyone's pumped about this, and I'm sure if I say anything negative and you're a shareholder, I'm sure you're going to disagree, and you're going to try to tell me, how great it is, what they bring to the table, wait and see what happens in 3 years. And I can appreciate all of that because obviously, we get defensive about stocks that we like, businesses that we like, or investments that we think are just going to generate more value over time. So when someone says something that's not very positive, we're like, hey, shut this guy up, get this guy out of here. Very understandable. However, we looked at this stock in the past, I believe, and I know someone mentioned it in Discord several months back as well. And I remember looking at the stock, and we would have these random pumps really for no reason. Of course, it wasn't based on any fundamentals whatsoever because there really aren't any with this company. So the fact that we have this kind of steady 30% gain throughout the day, yet again, with no financials disclosed, right? There's a lot of that going around. These companies, they came out during the pandemic. They got these fake BS pumps from the kids with their stimulus money. Literally every single publicly traded stock that had the words battery, fuel cell, EV, all of those companies, you can go back and look, had these massive BS pops throughout 20 and 21 because that's what all the kids were buying. So this stock went from $11 up to $130 a share, literally for no reason, and then went in a downtrend for the last 4 years, 4.5 years. The company is not generating any revenue. Now, after this big pop, we're looking at a $3.5 billion market cap. That is roughly double the size of SoundHound, remind you. So this is what I mean. This is why it's hard when you own a stock to be unbiased and try to take a step back and look at the big picture, look at any potential negatives that are looming, what could potentially happen. Could the stock start to sell off now and give these gains back, or is it just going to go higher, right? If you own it, you obviously want it to go higher. And that's the only thing you want to see. That's the only thing you want to hear. Realistically, though, this stock, in my opinion, should be lower. And I think that we saw that based on, number one, I had this key level drawn out at about $5 a share. And you can see we approached that level once, not twice, but even 3 times, and recently broke below it. On the news that QS actually recently settled with investors for the tune of almost $50 million because of supposedly misleading investors about the quality of their batteries or whatever it was. Yet somehow after that we hit lows of 467, and then the stock is up more days than not, gets back above the moving average, and now randomly gets the announcement today from Volkswagen. So that all just kind of came out of left field. But again, before this announcement took place, the stock was continuing the downtrend and hit new lows of 467. So I'm not trying to rain on your parade, because technically being tapped for a license agreement with your patents, your IPs, and the technology that you bring to the table is absolutely a huge positive. The problem, though, is, again, as we're seeing with a lot of these stocks that recently went public and recently got news, a company like ASTS comes to mind, who absolutely exploded off of the initial AT&T news, even though, surprise, surprise, no financials were disclosed. So again, this licensing agreement, for all we know, this might bring in, $50 million to QuantumScape. which of course is a decent chunk of change, right? But the problem is they already pegged 2024 capital expenditures at, I believe, 70 to 120 million. So that's why I'm saying, without any financials disclosed, this move really shouldn't happen. Not this much. You know, if you want to see 5, 7, 10%, understandable. Almost 30%. And if we switch over to FinViz, we can see the short float's only about 16%. So I don't want to hear the whole short squeeze and the stocks should go to $19 a share. Realistically, that shouldn't happen. Of course, in this market, it could happen because I'm seeing a lot of traders and a lot of investors, in my opinion, are rewarding the wrong companies. I like to remind everyone that, you know, there's nothing wrong, I guess, with this new strategy of kind of forcing the short squeezes on some of these stocks. But remember, stocks are shorted for a reason, right? So before Roaring Kitty tweeted out GME again recently, the stock was in a massive downtrend and was on its way to, you know, single digits per share and hitting new 52-week lows. He tweets, the stock runs to 65, right? So this is what I mean. There's a lot of these, in my mind, these kind of BS outside influences that are affecting the value of a stock. And that's why when a stock absolutely explodes or runs, you guys get it trending. Everyone's looking for a stock like this to top out at 8.5, but then you guys take it to 10.5. Obviously, what that does is that actually creates more stress, more anxiety, more uncertainty. Because even the people who were bullish, who were expecting this price, now it's sitting here at this price. So now people don't know, oh, wow, should I jump in? Is it going to 13 or is it going to immediately pull back and crash back down to 6? So this is why, in my opinion, I appreciate the fact that everyone wants to get involved into kind of like these dying zombie stocks and just hope for an announcement and hope for an explosion. And granted, sometimes it does work out and it does come to fruition. ASTS, again, perfect example. Stock went from like 2.5 to 12. Now, in my opinion, should it have? Absolutely not. It shouldn't have even gone up half of that to about $6 a share. Because again, we technically don't have a lot of the financials disclosed. And a company like this, QS, the fact that they were tapped and now Volkswagen Power Company is going to start producing their batteries, is that good news? Yes. Should that start to generate some royalty revenue for QuantumScape? Yes. Do we know how much? No. So how can we put a 30% value on it? How can we put a $3.5 billion market cap value on it if we don't have any financials disclosed? Now, I know I always kind of go back to ASTS, but, you know, that was one of the more recent stories that we had a big move on. And the first news, the AT&T news, was it good news? Yes. No financials disclosed. AT&T was already an investor in ASTS, so we kind of knew that was coming. And again, the fact that no financials disclosed, in my opinion, it shouldn't have had that initial pop. Then we had the news from Verizon saying they're making a $100 million investment, right? We have financials disclosed. So now having it pop on that news makes much, much more sense. Realistically, right? Let's be honest with each other. So something like QS here, the fact that this news came out and it's up, understandable. Okay, understandable. Should it be up this much? In my opinion, not even close. Not even close. Because again, a company like this, not generating revenue for 4 years, and if we go back and even just look at the EPS, we can see the company has been posting wider than expected losses than Wall Street expected for the last 5 quarters in a row. So all of these random spike ups, and again, even this big jump today on this news, in my opinion, this is all overreactions. And again, I know a lot of you may disagree with me. First of all, ask yourself, do you own QS, right? Because obviously you're being biased. But on the flip side, even if you didn't own QS and disagree with me, just remember, before this announcement was made, the company recently, again, settled a lawsuit with investors and was hitting new lows of sub $5 a share. And in my opinion, that's where it should be. Because if we look solely at market cap and the actual revenue that a business is generating, if you truly believe QS should have a market cap of $3.5–4 billion, then something like SoundHound should have a market cap of 10 or 12 billion. We have to call it like it is, right? Just because you own the stock shouldn't mean it's the exception to the rule. And this is why sometimes you have to take a step back and try to eliminate the emotional side of it and just do your analysis and look at the overall picture. So technically, on a technical side here, if we go back, we look at some of these trend lines, look at this massive BS nonsense explosion from free stimulus money. But if we go back to that high there, looks like the third week of December 2020, connecting to that recent pop July 31st, 2023, cutting down across, that's this orange line here. So this is technically our all-time resistance trend line. You can see the stock is obviously above that. If we look more recently from that high of July 31st, 23, connecting to this high here, January 4th, 24, cutting down across, this is now our more recent resistance level. You can see the stock got above that resistance trend line and is still technically sitting above that line. So if we close above this resistance trend line, technically we would still be bullish and we may see another jump up to the high sevens, or maybe, who knows, 8.5, 860, 870, who knows. So again, the technical traders are now kind of in control of this one because, of course, on the fundamental side, the stock should be at new lows at $3.50, $4 a share, in my opinion. I appreciate the fact that assets are still outweighing liabilities. The company's holding about $100 million in debt, which seems to be ticking down about $1.5–2 million a quarter. So I give kudos to them. The free cash flow is sitting here at minus $72 million. It was minus $90 million. Cash climbed up to about $250 million. Now it's down to sub $200 million. As you see, assets still outweighing liabilities. That's the one good thing that seems to be going for the company. And you can see they were slowly climbing the equity back up. Now it's back down to about $1.25 billion. The book value per share slowly getting eaten away. Was above 3. Now it's down to about 2.5. So again, if you want to put like fair value on a business like this, you know, if we want to say $1 billion, $1.2 billion is the fair value market cap, that's understandable. But the fact that now we're trading triple that at a $3.5 billion market cap, I mean, in my eyes, I just have to laugh about it. Look at that, missing on the EPS side. This means they're losing more money per quarter than Wall Street anticipated, right? So they've posted a wider than expected loss 7 of the last 8 quarters. And so I appreciate the fact, again, traders are going to tell me, well, the RSI was, 22, so that's why the stock is... Yeah, I get it. But at the end of the day, the stock was in a downtrend for 4.5 years for a reason, right? All they're doing is spending about $100 million a year easily, while at the same time not signing any deals, not generating any revenue. And I appreciate the fact that they signed this deal today, and people are saying, oh, this could be good. And it could. However, the problem is power company is now building a facility to do this, right? So we're not up and running yet, to my knowledge. And I just want to find the article here. Volkswagen's news. Look, wait, hold on. Solid state in this instant means the batteries have no liquid facilitating the flow of electrical charge. Solid state EVs promise lower costs, more per charge range, and better safety. So it's funny, at the risk of being too forward, I understand there's this whole trial and error phase when we bring new products, new technologies to the table. But again, after 4.5 years, if all of this is true and they are better and more powerful and more cost efficient, then how did it take so long to get this announcement? And at the same time, how come more companies haven't jumped on board the QS train as well? Right? That's what I have to ask myself. But it technically is good news today. So I'm happy for all you long-term shareholders who have been waiting for an announcement like this. They represent, we're moving, we're coming into Thursday. Volkswagen signing is getting there. Power company plans to build a plant capable of making 40 gigawatt hours of batteries a year. That's enough to make roughly 500,000 EVs, right? And they were saying they could potentially try to scale that up to 80 gigawatt hours of batteries a year, which would be about 1 million EVs. So this is why I'm saying I appreciate the fact that the stock is having some pops today and seeing some life. But at the same time, with no financials disclosed, we don't know if I mean, obviously, I'm viewing it as an overreaction just because I don't have all the information. But for all we know, this could be an underreaction, right? Maybe they're going to generate a 400 million off of this license. Well, now if that's the number, now we have to reevaluate the situation. Now maybe we should be up 40-50% today. Sorry, I had too much coffee. But you understand what I'm saying? Maybe we should be up 50-60% today instead of 30%. So the problem is we're not getting the necessary information we need to really appreciate the fact whether some of these recent moves in some of these stocks are realistic, if they're justified. Because again, at a $3.5 million valuation now, if they generate $100 million off of this deal, they're overvalued in my eyes. But the main point I was making here is, if Power Company is planning to build a plant capable of producing these batteries, co-producing these batteries off of this licensing agreement, well, then we're not in production yet, right? And this basically goes back to what we say with practically all of these up-and-coming state of infancy / zombie companies that you guys asked me to look at that haven't done anything for 3, 4, 5 years since they've been public. So until these batteries are actually made and they're generating licensing fees and revenue from this production, then technically the stock should not be seeing this pop, and it should continue down to new lows. But that's just me, that's just my opinion. Slowing EV growth. But again, technically, from a technical standpoint, it looks like now the stock is back above 7. We're above this top resistance trend line. So next move might be 8. If we switch over here to stock charts, we're looking at the weekly. The RSI is here at 59.5, so it still has more room to go over the long term. The stock's now back above the 50-day moving average, and you can see next pivot point, 860. MACD relatively flat, basically, since the ball dropped, because all the company's doing is losing money. But we can see the next pivot point, 860. So, yeah, I guess, I don't know, you technical traders out there, again, climbing the RSI up. We're above a resistance trend line and a pivot point here on the daily. As you see, resistance level 673, stocks above 7. So, yeah, I guess the technical traders are now in control. And if you guys want to take it to 8.5, 860, more power to you. And I wish all of you the best of luck. In my opinion, it's like a $3 stock, but you know, that always doesn't come to fruition. Now, RSI here on the daily now approaching 80. So we'll see now what happens. If it immediately pulls back and, you know, retest the first resistance trend line here at 6 before maybe trying to bounce back higher and go into the 8s. Or now if we close above this resistance trend line, so technically we're bullish, we closed above this pivot point on the daily, so technically we're still bullish. So now we're going to take the next leg higher to 850, 860, right? And go up to the next pivot point. I'm not sure. But again, pulling up FinViz, seeing that we're only short about 16% of the float, I'm honestly surprised that not only it popped 30%, but it's actually maintaining that value. In my opinion, this may be short-lived, and it may start to kind of slowly step down and give back these gains over the next couple of weeks, perhaps. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. I'm sure, again, if you guys have been watching it, if you feel this is more positive news and you know, they should get more credit than I'm giving them, so to speak, then hey, let us know down in the comments section. You know, I have no problem. I always say I welcome all input from you guys. You know, coming out and saying something like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. That's pretty much a silly comment. Because, of course, again, it's all hindsight for the most part. But all of you guys out there who have been involved in this for a while, who've been holding on, just kind of hoping that the company says something, does something, somehow turns it around, gives you some sort of positive news. Well, this was your day today, and you see a 30% pop with the stock running back up above $7. Looks like it's going to hold that level going into the close. But that's pretty much it. So I'm going to end it there. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually pretty quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, they're very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. Hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.